Oh, Piccadilly. Joe Biden has fiddled me. This is the Fight Guy. I'm your host, Guy Pert, and I'm going to be breaking down just the main card this week of UFC Mexico City. As you can see, I am in Mexico City right now. It's absolutely stunning. This is the view from my balcony at my Airbnb, of which I am joined by a special guest today. I didn't think I'd be doing this. I thought this would be a solely solo show, but I am joined by a South African, very beautiful, very gorgeous, very knowledgeable. Fertile Myrtle, the South African fertility doll, is here with me today. We're going to be breaking down the main card of Mexico City together. Before you guys say anything, you want to judge Myrtle and her expertise. She does actually watch every main card with me in the living room, so she knows a thing or two because she's seen a thing or two, so she's going to be giving her opinion collectively on the main card. We're going to break it all down for you guys as fast as possible, starting with the very first fight on the main card, which is Ronaldo Rodríguez versus Kelvin Borjas. Ronaldo Rodríguez, the younger, slightly younger Mexican fighter coming off of a submission win on the Sphere card. He's 1-0 in the UFC. He's got strong grappling, 10 submission wins. High activity, high home crowd energy are bonuses for this guy. I feel like, you have fighters that, they'll go their entire career without getting to fight in their hometown or their home region, somewhere remotely close to where they grew up. And then Ronaldo Rodríguez, just his third fight in the UFC, he's getting that opportunity to fight in Mexico. He's a guy that feeds off of crowd energy. I think that that's going to do good for him. A lot of guys, it's not the same. A lot of guys, they'll be 7 years in their professional career. They'll get a fight at home. They're so anxious. They're so nervous. All their friends are there. Everybody's watching them. They second guess themselves. They make a mistake. I don't think Ronaldo Rodríguez is that guy. I think it's just going to fuel. It's going to be like morphine. All right, he's not going to feel anything. Let's go with Kelvin Borjas for a second. Peruvian fighter. He is on a 2-fight skid. Losses to Joshua Van and Alessandro Costa. He's a busy striker, decent striking, solid jiu-jitsu. He's got 5 submission wins, but his wrestling has faltered in the UFC. I think that's been really the heart of both of his losses in the UFC. I think Rodríguez's ground game is going to exploit Borja's takedown defense. I'm going to go with Ronaldo Rodríguez via decision, or submission, rather. He's going to get the sub. We're going to go with Ronaldo. That guy's a crazy motherfucker. Next fight, David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. David Martinez, Mexican fighter making his UFC debut. All right, he just got a Dana White Contender Series contract, which it seems like they're handing out to everybody nowadays. So I got to be careful picking my Dana White Contender Series alum moving forward. But David Martinez, he's 11-1. He's got 9 knockouts. He's an aggressive kickboxer. Unproven grappling against UFC level guys, which brings me to Simon Oliveira. He's only had a couple fights in the UFC. I believe both were losses. Let's double check that in real time. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to count the Dana White Contender Series fight. He's coming off of a decision loss and most recently a knockout loss over 2 years ago. I think you guys know what I'm going to pick. I never pick a fighter more than a 1.5-year layoff, especially after a knockout or a tremendous injury. I never really pick them to win, hence Jan, hence Fiziev. You've seen my videos. You know what I'm about. I'm going to go with Ronaldo or David Martinez to get the knockout. Certainly. I already gave my pick on Ronaldo. What am I doing? It's too late to be doing this. Next fight, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. Raul Rosas Jr., Chihuahua, Mexican-American young star. He is still eligible to get fraud checked. All right, come at me if you want. I see Peyton Talbot vibes behind Raul Rosas Jr. Not saying he's going to lose his fight. I'm picking Raul Rosas to get the submission win over Vince Morales, and I'll get to why in a second. But Raul Rosas Jr., if he loses this fight against 16-9 Vince Morales, who's coming off of a loss, I think 2 losses. He's coming off of 2 losses in a row. Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's lost every fight in the UFC that he's had. I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. I'm saying my point is if he loses this fight, everybody's going to call him a fraud. You're going to see it, so get ready for that. If he loses, which he won't, So don't worry about it, but still kind of don't forget about it. At the same time, next fight, Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Kelvin Gastelum finally moving up to middleweight. He's coming off of a Daniel Rodríguez decision win last summer. Not that impressive, but still a win's a win. He's a crafty striker. He's got good wrestling, but very inconsistent lately and struggling with weight cuts. He is built like a lunch lady, as you could see here on his ESPN profile picture. Joe Pyfer, 28, power puncher, 8 knockouts, coming off of a quick knockout loss early this year in January. I think we're going to see a different Joe Pyfer. I really am, and I'm investing in that. I think this is the type of guy who goes back home after a loss, sits down, stares at the wall, and maybe bangs his head a couple of times. He's crazy. He's going to figure it out. He's going to make adjustments. He's going to look even better. And he's 5 years younger with 5 inches of reach. Give me Joe Pyfer via knockout. I know it's a casual pick. I've rocked with youth for a lot of the main card events this year, hence the exception of Henry Cejudo. Other than that, Carlos Ulberg, pretty much all my other age differentials, I go with the guy that's 5+ years younger, the guy that's a better power puncher, the guy that's a real middleweight. I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer to get the knockout win. We're moving on. Next fight, we have our co-main event, Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. Manuel Torres, Mexican fighter, 29 years old. He's 2-1 in the UFC. Only loss was to Ignacio Bahamondes. Not a bad loss. It was a knockout loss, but Ignacio is on one right now. I watched him retire Jalen Turner just a few weeks ago, regrettably. Nonetheless, Manuel Torres, I think he's explosive, wrestling capable. He's going to be fueled by the hometown crowd. Those are all pros. Drew Dober, he's a vet in the UFC. He's seen it all. He's been in forever. 1-2 in his last 3. He got cut up bad by Gene Silva. Who else? 12 knockouts. He's always entertaining. Always an entertaining fight. I don't think this fight makes it past the second round, if that. I think this is going to end in the first round. I think it's going to be very bloody. I think Manuel Torres is going to get the win. I'm going to go with Manuel Torres to get this done via knockout in the first round. I think that's going to happen. And I love Drew Dober. But god damn, these Mexicans can fight. Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. Brandon Moreno, former champion, 31, snapped a 2-fight skid with a decision over Amir Albazi, which a lot of people say, that guy is overrated. He's only got good wrestling. He's only a one-dimensional fighter. Nonetheless, Brandon Moreno is a dog. One of my coaches at my jiu-jitsu gym fought Brandon Moreno in the UFC. That's Ryan Benoit. The dude is a dog. And now that's not to take anything away from Brandon Moreno. He is insane. Crisp boxing, Mexico City's altitude, home turf, born in Tijuana, trains in Tijuana. 1-2 in his last 3. Showing some wear and tear. It makes me nervous. Steve Erceg, Australian fighter, 29 years old, 3-2 in the UFC, with coming off of a knockout loss to Kai Kara France, and the only other loss was to one of the greatest flyweights I believe we will ever see, Alexandre Pantoja. I'm very high on that guy's stock. I think if Steve Erceg fights as good as he did against Pantoja, he's going to go toe-to-toe with Moreno. Coming off of a knockout loss, it makes me very nervous, but Kai Kara France looked absolutely insane that fight. I really want to go with Steve Erceg. Moreno's well-rounded. He's got good striking. He's got really good submission. He matches up well with anybody. He's good everywhere. But Steve Erceg, I think he's just got crisper boxing. I think he's got better striking. Sure, he's at a small reach disadvantage, but I think Steve's going to piece him up. I don't know. I just have this feeling that Moreno is near the end. I know he's still young. He has a few more years, but at the flyweight division, I mean, those guys can tear pretty quickly. Brandon Moreno, 1-2 in his last 3. My heart's telling me to go with Steve Erceg. My brain's telling me to go with Brandon Moreno. I want to get a good underdog pick. I want some drama. I want something to root for. I want the Australian with the fucked up nose to knock Brandon Moreno out in Mexico so we have something to talk about before UFC 314. I'm going to go with Steve Erceg to get this done Fertile Myrtle thinks the exact same thing. We've agreed with all of our picks, so that's finalized. Don't forget, if you are on X, you could follow me at The Fight Guy. You could also vote here on Consensus Score. As you can see, I put in all my picks here, with the least popular pick being my main card pick, Steve Erceg, to win by decision. I think he's going to get the decision win. That's it. That's The Fight Guy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on Sunday.